Hi, I am Kerry, and I practice, study, and teach Vedic Astrology. Welcome to class. Today we're going to learn about how to decipher a Vedic Astrology chart. We're going to focus on the mechanics and not so much on interpretation. I'll get into interpretation, but that's a long road. So today we're just going to figure out what we're looking at when we look at one of these Vedic Astrology charts. So, when we are looking at one of these charts, to me, it is a mapping of a moment in time in a specific place. And the map shows the relative positions of the sun, the moon, and the other planets in the solar system at that moment and at that place. So the maps take different formats, but they're all displaying the same data. So if you're looking at the slide, the one on the left there, the round looking chart, that's very familiar to people who are interested in Western astrology, the astrology wheel that the Western astrology uses. The middle chart and the right side chart are the North Indian and South Indian formats of that we use in Vedic astrology. They will both display the same information and just in a different way, and I will explain how that goes as we move along. So, a little philosophy when we're even looking at this chart and this map. Why are we even looking at this? So I feel like we're all asking these questions. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I here? What should I do? And is this fate? Or do I have any choice? So, philosophy, we can go all day. As the eye of the Vedas. So, let me even explain Veda. I realize that is even a foreign word. Obviously, I'm American, and I have studied this art and science that comes from Asia, specifically India, for half of my life. And it's become so much a part of me that I don't even realize that I'm saying words that don't make sense to other people. So the word Veda means wisdom. And when we say the Vedas, it is a collection of wisdom. They come in different books or formats, but essentially Veda means wisdom. So there's some confusion when I tell people I am a Vedic astrologer. They conflate that with Ayurveda, which is not wrong. Veda is still in that word. Ayurveda means, Ayur means life. Veda means wisdom, wisdom of life. So it's the Vedic medical system. Anyway, Jyotish. Jyotish is how we say the word for the thing that I practice. It's the traditional name for Vedic astrology, and it is a navigational tool. Jyotish means, Jyoti means light. So really this is the science of light. And just like we're going into a dark room and turning a light on just to give us a little bit of information about where to step or not to step inside of that room, the same thing with looking at our Vedic astrology chart. It gives us a blueprint of what is our life karma, what is the karmic situation of our life, which sometimes helps to illuminate which way we should go, what choices we should make. So just as using a weather forecast helps us to know how to prepare for what we're about to go do outside, the same idea, using the information that our Jyotish chart offers us, can help us prepare for our next move in life. And here's a great quote: "Knowing is half the battle," from our friend G.I. Joe. So, what we're looking at in a chart is a map of a moment. And then how do we read that map? What are the messages and the patterns telling us that the stars and planets are giving us this message, this picture? How do we understand that message? So the astrological chart is tracking the position of a planet, which will be sitting in a zodiac sign that, because of the overall orientation of the chart, will represent a certain function in life. So to be basic, there are three main factors that we're tracking when we look at one of these astrology charts. So we have planets, we have signs, and we have houses. And how that language goes is, I am a planet sitting in a sign in a certain house. And now I've correlated, I've given you an analogy here. Let's think of the planets as actors, and the sign that they're sitting in as the set of the play, and the house, which is the function, as the scene in the play. Maybe it's a love scene. Maybe it's a sad scene. Maybe it's the characters are at work or something like that. So those are the three things. We got a planet sitting in a sign, which is also a function or a house in the chart. Okay, so let's start with the actors, the planets. The Sanskrit word, and if you guys stick with me, you're going to have to learn some Sanskrit words, because Sanskrit is just, it's just beautiful. I love it. And it is the basis for this practice that I've been spending half of my life doing. So the Sanskrit word for planets is graha. Not really a great translation, honestly. So graha means to grasp, seize, and push. So when we analyze the pushers, it's helpful to realize that they are like people. They have an agenda, they have preferences, they have strengths and weaknesses. The grahas are regarded as the actors that represent how the karma indicated by the chart will unfold. You can think of the actors as having desire. That's what I mean by agenda. For example, the moon in our chart, the agenda of the moon is to make us feel and have sensitivity and to reflect back what the world is showing us. Okay, so in Vedic astrology, the planets we track are known as the classical planets. They are visible to the human eye without a telescope. And we also call them the weekday planets. And technically not all of them are planets. The sun and the moon are not planets. The sun is a star and the moon is a satellite of the Earth. It's not really a planet. But we do call them the luminaries, and there is an order to this lineup of graha. So we start with the sun and the moon. They are the two lights, the luminaries. And then we've got 5 visible planets. And this is the order we use for our weekday planets: Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So with the sun and moon, that's 7. And then we add the 2 shadow planets, which we call Rahu and Ketu, as number 8 and 9. In Western astrology, Rahu and Ketu are known as the nodes of the moon. So, and I'm just going to say it, this is an order, this weekday planets order. And this whole group together is called the Navagraha. Navagraha means 9 planets. And we call it the weekday order because each of the days of the week is associated with a planet. Who knew? So Sunday, that's easy. If you know Hindi or Sanskrit or any of those, they're literally called the day of the moon, the day of Mars, etc. And even in some Romance languages, Spanish, if you can patch together Spanish and French, you'll see that Mercredi is Mercury's day and Viernes is Venus's day. So those are who we're dealing with as far as the planets, 9 planets. And then we have the signs, which I correlated with the set of the play. Okay, so this is a big topic with the signs. From our earthly vantage point, it appears that we're sitting still and the sun and the moon and the planets are moving through our sky every day and night on a certain path. So when we look east, we can see the sunrise. When we look to the west, we can see the sunset. But the sun and moon basically travel in a band. They don't really vary wildly outside of this one zone. So the stars that are that background where we see the planets traveling, we have assigned them those particular stars names. We call those constellations the zodiac. Zodiac means collection of animals. So there are 12 signs spanning a 360-degree wheel. In Vedic astrology, even though the signs don't exactly fit in 30 degrees in every case, we are saying each of those signs is 30 degrees. All right, so that's that for Vedic astrology. And then there's a beginning and end of the zodiac. And the zodiac actually begins with Aries, the sign of Aries, and it goes around in order. I'll read them off. We have Aries, then we have Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And then we get back to Aries. So my advice to you, if you want to start learning Vedic astrology, is learn those signs in that order. Learn those 9 planets in that order. Just memorize them. It won't take you very long. Spend a week, drill yourself, keep going, and just learn those. It becomes important and useful to know the order of the planets and to know the order of the signs. So each of those signs then, we can say it's like an environment or a set. So if you've ever been to a play, you know that sometimes the set will look like, oh, it's the schoolyard in the set, or oh, they're at the apartment in the set. So you know where the actors are and how they might behave in that set or in that sign. Each of the signs is connected to one of the planets. And we call those planets the rulers or the lords of the sign. And the sign becomes an expression of that planet's energy. So out of our 9 planets, we have the sun and moon, the first 2. Each one of them rules one sign. So that's 2 out of 12. The 5 middle ones that we can see each rule 2 signs. That's 12. But then those nodes of the moon get to co-rule one sign each. So the signs really become an expression of a planet or a combination of planetary energy. Okay, now the houses. First house, second house. So the houses reflect the quadrants of space that are consistent in any given moment. And I'm going to say that in a different way. Right here, right now, if I'm looking east, whatever's on the eastern horizon is the first house of any given time and place. Any given time and place. The 4th house in physical space is below where I'm sitting. Mother Earth, all the way down there. I can't see those stars because the Earth is in the way of those stars. So the 4th house is below. The 7th house is on the western horizon. And always, 10th house is always up here. And then you can put the other houses in order there. So I'm just telling you the eastern horizon, first house. And when we say first house, it's the same thing as saying the ascendant sign or the rising sign. So we have different words for the first house. First house becomes really important in the chart. To me, I even put that above the sun sign. Western astrology really emphasizes what sign is the sun in, which it spends a whole month in that sign. The rising sign or ascendant sign is only active for 2 hours out of any day. So we have 24 hours in one day, and we've got 12 signs. So every 2 hours, the ascendant sign changes. So when we know our time and place of birth, we can track all of those factors. We can know that at that moment, the constellation rising up over the eastern horizon was a certain sign, and that sign becomes the first house of the chart. Okay, so there we go. All right, now we're going to start to synthesize it all. We're going to have a planet in a sign in a house. And again, we have planets are the who, signs are the how, and houses are what. So this is a tiny bit of interpretation, but just a drop, because we're not going to go into specifics. But I just wanted to, we're focusing on 3 factors here. And what are these 3 factors? They're the actor in an environment doing a thing. So in my pictures, we've got the 9 planets there in order. You can see the 9 planets. And then on the lower left, you see the zodiac with the signs. So each of them has a sigil. So in the middle, you can see the sun. And then there's a little band with sigils, and those are symbols for the signs. That also becomes useful to learn those things. Whilst you're learning the order of the signs, you might as well absorb the symbols. So the sigils are there, and also the animal symbols. So Aries associated with the ram, Taurus associated with the bull. So you can see in that picture and go around in your order. And then on the right side, you can see the North Indian chart that shows the houses. It's very tiny writing, so I don't expect you to see that. But it's telling you the name of each of those houses and what actions or domain of life is considered in those houses. Okay, and now we come to the chart. So we call the Sanskrit word is Kundali for the astrological chart. And I just want to dwell a little bit here in what does that mean. So in Western astrology, they use the wheel chart, and it's always seen in that circular format, which is nice. There's a lot of round things in the world. Each of the sun and moon look round, the earth is round. So, not wrong. The Vedic chart we call Kundali. So let's explore what this means. I'm breaking it down here in the slide. So Kunda means a well, a vessel for coal, a basin of water, a pit, a round hole in the ground, a bowl, a pitcher, a pot, a fire pit. So you get it, right? There's a concave shape that holds things. That's what a kunda is. And when you say li on the end, it just says like. It means like or same as. So like a water pot, like a fire pit. So when we're looking at the astrological chart, we're looking at, they're calling it a fire pit or a vessel. Interesting. What could that be like? Philosophically speaking, I think when we look at that chart and it is a map, to me, Kunda or Kundali is implying like this is a ceremonial thing. A fire pit is a very important part of Vedic ceremony. So if we're saying, hey, our astrological chart is like representing the experience of our life, that is ceremonial. It's sacred. It's sacred. You're sacred. You. So it just, what we're doing is we're looking at the sacred moment when a person has entered into the earth plane and separated from their mother and Mother Earth. So the birth chart captures that moment in time, and it initiates the lifespan of a person. And to me, that is a sacred thing. So when you start looking at charts of people you love, people you hate, people you're working with, please have respect. Please have respect. This is somebody's life, it's their soul, and it's their karma. So do it with grace, please. So Mother Earth is always at the center of our studies in astrology. And what we are studying is how we as little earthlings have sprouted out to do our duty or our karma here on earth. So it is a sacred play. Please be respectful. Okay, this is the North Indian chart. This is the North Indian style. We're going to look at the North and South Indian style. So the main thing, the difference between these two things, is the way the houses and the signs are displayed. In one, the houses are static. In the other, the signs are static. Okay, so in North Indian chart, the houses are static. Just like right here with me right now. 10th house is always there. 4th house is always there. First house is always there. Okay, so it's static. The house numbers are implied. So when you see a North Indian chart and there's little numbers in there, they aren't telling you the house number. They're telling you what sign is occupying that house with the North Indian chart. So I have written the numbers in there for you just because we're learning. And I want you to know that that top diamond is always number 1. It's the ascendant sign. And the 7th house is down below. And so I wrote those there to teach you this right now. But if you're actually looking at a chart that somebody's generated for you, what those numbers are saying are what sign is it. So as I'm suggesting to you guys to learn the signs in order, you might as well add on in your brain, Aries is number 1. Learn 1, Aries 1, Aries 1. Taurus 2, Taurus 2, Taurus 2. So when I say Scorpio, you say 8. And when I say Capricorn, you say 10. And when I say Leo, you say 5. That's how you start really understanding and quickly reading these charts. Okay, so the other thing to mention here, when we're looking at a chart, the North Indian, we're going to track in counterclockwise fashion, anti-clockwise. So you can see number 1 is in the middle, and number 2 you go to the left and you're going around. So think about that. And let's look at the South Indian chart. So the South Indian chart, still a square, but we have more squares instead of diamonds and triangles. And in South Indian chart, the signs are always in the same place. And I have written them in there for you to teach you where they always are. But traditionally, when I look at this chart, I don't need a clue to know that Virgo is in the lower right and Pisces is in the upper left. I just know that. So that's going to be implied in most of the South Indian charts. And now if I actually give you a reading and provide you with a chart, I write them in for you because I want people to to just be able to understand it. The other thing to mention on this one is that since the signs are always in the same place, we have to know what is house number 1. So if you can look in there, Aries, on this particular chart, there's a tiny red line in the upper left corner of the Aries block. That will show you the ascendant or the first house. That's the mark to say this is where we start. This is the first house. And then we go clockwise on this one. Okay, so I'm going to just show you a couple of charts. I'm not going to do deep interpretation, but I just want to show you the map so you can start looking. So I picked a guy named Buddy Holly. He was a really young guy, American guy. He was born in 1936 in Lubbock, Texas. We have to have good data for this guy. He was kind of a real pioneer in rock and roll. So he did a lot in his very, very short life. He unfortunately passed away in a plane crash, only 23 years old. So that's sad. But Here's his chart. Okay, so this is the South Indian version of Buddy Holly. And in the South Indian chart, we have a space in the middle. Sometimes you'll see the birth data in there. Other times there might be a picture of Ganesh or a picture of the Om symbol. I've elected to just put the birth data of the person inside of there. So and anytime I start reading a chart for somebody, whether it's for just for fun, me looking up at a documentary or watching something, I always check with the person if I can, or find the data and to see if I have the right time and place and date of birth, because it's important. So for Buddy Holly, born September 7th, 1936 at 3:30 p.m. in Texas, the sign that was rising, the first house, if you look in the lower left corner of the square, you can see the little line is there. Also AS. AS stands for ascendant. And so that his first house is Sagittarius. So I write all of this stuff in. In a traditional chart, a lot of things are implied, like all of the signs, but I've written them in there because we're learning. So Sagittarius, first house, he's got that. And then we would start and go around clockwise to see that the second house has Capricorn, the third house has Aquarius, the fourth house has Pisces. So in this way, if we actually know somebody's rising birth data and we can know their rising sign, for me, that is very informative. I focus on the rising sign because it gives me a template. Essentially, there's 12 templates, because when the first house is Sagittarius, it implies that the 10th house of career is going to be Virgo, and the 7th house of relationship is going to be Gemini. So there's a lot of implications, even if I just know the rising sign. So that's how we get that. Now, the red things marked in the chart are all planets. And you might get a different chart from a different astrologer and they have it color-coded in a different way. That's fine. But in my world here, the red guys are all the planets. And so there's 9 of them. Let's go around and track which one is where, so that they're the actors. So RA stands for Rahu. He was number 8 in the lineup of 9. And he sits in the house number 1. So what is the first house about? It's about the whole entire picture of the person or place or thing that we're looking at. And so Rahu being in the first house is like putting a Rahu on top of Buddy Holly's head. It's making a really big impact in his life. Rahu in the first house can show somebody who gains fame. Wow, he sure did that really quickly, and then was a shooting star. He was here and gone. So Rahu in the first. Second house, there's no red guys in there. It's empty. The second house we look at for things like resources and family and wealth. What supports you? What food can you eat? How much food do you have? How much wealth do you have? Second house matters. So with 0 planets in the second house, does that mean Buddy Holly didn't have any food or family? No. Remember, we have 12 houses and only 9 planets. It is very common for any one of us to have multiple empty houses in our chart. That is not a bad thing at all. It just means that in order to find out about Buddy Holly's number 2 house, I need to find a different way to go figure that out. And the way I do it is by saying, okay, who's in charge of house number 2? It's, Saturn. All right, Saturn, tell me about Buddy Holly and his family. So anyway, keep going. If you go up to number 3, you'll see SA there. SA is Saturn. You may be wondering what the line underneath the planet means. It means retrograde motion. So there is something that means something when you see that line there. Fourth house, buddy's got nothing in there. And fifth house, empty. The moon, M-O, is the moon. And it's in Taurus in the sixth house. Again, I'm not here for interpretation. We're not going to go deeply. But I'm just trying to find who's where on the map. K2, that's K-E, up in the upper right-hand corner. And you'll notice, if you look on the lower left-hand corner, that Rahu and Ketu are always exactly opposite to each other. They'll always have that same degree. Those numbers by the letters are degrees, by the way. We're showing exactly where they are in that sign by those numbers. So he has got K2 in the 7th. Mars ends up in the 8th house in the sign of Cancer. The Sun sits in the sign of Leo in the 9th house. That's really strong. That's really strong for Buddy Holly. That's probably why he was a shooting star. The Sun is the ruler of the sign of Leo. So when a planet gets into a sign where it rules it or it's friendly, it functions well. So he was well known very quickly, and we still know who he is. We're still talking about this guy. Then in the 10th house, he's got two planets. He's got Mercury and Venus, both sitting in Virgo in the 10th house. 11th house void, nothing's in there. And then the 12th house has Jupiter in the sign of Scorpio in the 12th. So that's just the basic read on how we find out what planet is in what sign, in what house. And now we're going to look at it from the North Indian perspective. So I made it a little tougher. It's really hard to see those little numbers in there. That's just the way it is. But where you can see the top diamond, it has AS in there. Again, it's implied, but I wrote it in there for you. But we know that it's the first house. And from our other study, we knew that it's Sagittarius is the first house. And Rahu is sitting there. Rahu in Sagittarius in the first house. So in the very center of that chart, there's little green numbers. You probably can't see them. But that diamond has 9 on it. 9 is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the 9th sign. Again, that's why I'm encouraging you to not only learn the signs in order, but also mentally attach a number to them. Pisces, 12, Virgo, 6, Cancer, 4. Just keep drilling yourself. So that way, when you see one of these charts and you think, well, what sign is that? I don't know. 9 is Sagittarius. So let's start with that and look at the top square, and then we're going to go anti-clockwise around. So that second house void, just like the other chart. Number 10 means Capricorn. So nothing in Capricorn in the second house. The third house, which is where Saturn is, the underlined SA. So we've got Saturn in Aquarius in the third house. Fourth house and fifth house are void, empty, no planets. The sixth house is the lower base where MO is. That's the sixth house. So we've got the moon in Taurus in the sixth house. There's a little tiny 2 in there. So 2 is Taurus. So moon in Taurus in the sixth. And then we've got K2 in Gemini in the 7th house. We've got Mars in Cancer in the 8th house. We've got our Sun again in the 9th house in Leo. Mercury and Venus, Virgo, 10th house. 11th house void. 12th house has Jupiter in Scorpio. So that's the basic way of just looking at these things. I'm going to put it back. So that is our introduction. Just how to puzzle out what planet is in what sign and in what house. And we're going to start there, and we'll keep going. We'll keep learning about how to interpret those things. which is a whole thing. So I hope you enjoyed class today. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.